if I look at my results, they're just a reflection of my habits. Like mindset is a habit. So if you look at my relationships, they're a habit. My communication is a habit. My detachment is a habit. Gratitude is a habit that Mikey went over. You know, and so if you start looking at it and say, what are the habits that my goal demands? You know, one habit that I changed, I was telling Mikey this at lunch, I used to be super optimistic. I'm still optimistic, but being optimistic doesn't mean you have a positive mental attitude. You could be the most optimistic person and be in lacking limitation. And when I understood the difference in that, it changed the game. A lot of people are too optimistic when they don't see the truth of what's going on. So they make a lot of mistakes because they're too optimistic. So we want to have some balance there. Now, when you look at the type of person you are is only based on the habits you form. So look at your results. That'll tell us why we're where we are. So what are the habits you form? You know, like some people today were talking about marriage. They were grateful for being divorced, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for being married. Like I have the most amazing wife, you know, and we grow together. And I love it. And I'm happy for what we've built, and I'm super grateful for it, but I'm grateful for my team, I'm grateful for my clients. And what happens is everybody has their own stories. And remember yesterday I was telling you, like, the mind will create a meaning towards that story, and then the story will turn into a belief. We all have them around every single thing we do. But your story keeps getting better the more you keep showing up, the more you keep leaning in. And showing up is a habit. It is a habit to show up. Most people are not showing up. They'll show up on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, they start drifting away. Thursday, for sure. And then Friday, they're looking forward to the weekend. Right? And so, when you look at this, successful people are motivated by great results. They love great results. It motivates them so much because the results mean so much to them. The results really mean something to them. And unsuccessful people, the distractions and the pleasure means more than the great results. What if you could have both? But the key of the common denominator of success is the secret behind every successful person is simple. They do the things that unsuccessful people don't want to do. That is the key. But guess what? Successful people don't want to do them either. But they do them because their results mean something. That's the difference. That is the absolute truth. So, when you start looking at this, the secret of success boils down to the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. Like, failures don't like to practice their disciplines. Failures don't like to get out of their comfort zone. Failures don't like to work on their craft. They don't want to work on their skill set. You know, most people will practice what they do until they get it right. Successful people will practice it until they can't get it wrong. Big difference. Big difference. So, the world class always do their greatest work in private. You get rewarded for what you do in private. Private and your practice is where the work is. And world-class people show up every day and are always thinking, how can I get better? How can I get better? How can I do this better? They constantly are practicing to get great. Now, their number one goal is beating their personal best. I want to beat my personal best every day. I want to beat my personal best. And when you start setting that intention, you watch what's going to start happening. You watch what is going to start unfolding in your life. Now, what are the best habits? If you're talking about work habits, it's your contacting habits. So, Kim, I gotta imagine you're really good with the contacting habits for where you are. Okay? You have to be. You know, you're sowing the right seeds. But contacting habits are so important. That's the starting habit. Are you contacting enough people and the right people? What I mean by the right people, your ideal client. See, most people are very bad at contacting habits, and they wonder why they're not making sales. The second is calling habits. Like not just contacting people, but actually setting up meetings. You've got to give them a reason to set up a meeting. So how you frame the meeting is a contacting habit. You have to give them enough reason to get on the meeting for whatever you're doing. And then it's persuading habits, how you communicate. You know, most people are communicating only to the people that they think they can sell. But what about leaving the people better off? You never know who somebody knows. And then the last one is the working habits. My mentor used to tell me, no one has good working habits. He would always tell me that. He goes, working habits are the key. He goes, you and I have it, but the rest of the team really needs to improve in working habits. And I'd be like, Bob, they're working. He goes, no, they're not working. They're not working. If you don't have a goal, you're not working. That's what he used to tell me. But to him, the most important habit was working habits. But if you take care of those three, working habits will take care of itself. Working habits will take care of itself. You remember how I was talking about be, do, have? This is the doing part. This is the doing part. You have to do it. And that's going to affect your being just as much as your being is going to affect the doing. They work together. So if you want to increase your sales and increase your effectiveness, take a look at where you are on the scale. And just rate yourself honestly on a scale of 1 to 10. So where am I in contacting habits? Or maybe it's not you, maybe it's your team. So then ask them, tell me how many people you're talking to every day. And tell me how you set up that. Start asking more questions so you can find out if there's some habits that you need to change as a leader. But then you look at calling habits. How many calls are you doing every day? And you don't need to do a ton of calls to create a ton of success. You really don't. I had a client who told me, you're going to love what I'm doing now. I've committed to doing 100 calls a day. I said, that is the worst idea I've ever heard. I said, you're never going to last doing that. That's a dumb idea. I said, I'd rather you commit to doing 15 for the next 1,500 days and watch what happens. You know, we've got to stop going after these things that are not going to last and create the little things that will last for a lifetime. That's where you win. That is where you're going to win. And you've got to get great at speaking. We're all speaking every day. I don't care what you're doing, you're talking to somebody. And so our communication is so important to keep working on and keep improving. The best thing that I ever learned about communication, how it gets better, is as your awareness grows, your communication grows. Because you're going to get so good at reading people. You're going to get so good at reading people. I did a pretty good job at lunch with you, Paul, didn't I? Yeah. So, but you get really good when your awareness keeps growing. As your awareness keeps growing, it's very easy to see who you can help and how you can help. Now, when you start looking at this, earning money is a habit. Understand that. It is a habit. So if you want to increase that, we just got to increase the habit. You know, your self-talk is a habit. It is the most powerful or the most destructive behavior that you have. You know, remember this morning I said, let's start listening to your silent voice. You're going to see what you're putting in your imagination. Well, that's all self-talk. Today's self-talk equals tomorrow's facts. If you read that book I gave you, that's where it's from. It's in Mental Diets. Today's self-talk equals tomorrow's facts. Haley, I was super impressed. You didn't see me doing this, but I was watching you, and you already got into the book and you started highlighting it. You finished it. How did you like it?
It was very interesting.
Yeah. That is, have you started reading it? Is that But this is either the most powerful habit or the most destructive habit you have. So ask yourself, think of your goal, just for a moment. Put it in your mind. Think of your goal. And then think how you've been talking to yourself today. Are they aligned? If they're not aligned, you can't create it. So just think just for today, so you have enough reason to discipline yourself tonight. Enough reason to do it. Now, what else is a habit? Selling is a habit. When this becomes a habit, see you later. You're going to soar your income. You're going to scale your business dramatically. Selling is an absolute habit. It is an absolute habit. I remember I had just started working, not getting coached, but actually working side by side with my mentor. And we were at a seminar like this, and it was Sunday morning. It was like 7:30, and I'm sitting in the back. He said, "Who'd you sell today?" And I said, I shouldn't have said this. I said, "Well, it's Sunday." He said, "Oh no, you sell every day. You can't make something a habit if you don't do it every day." That's what he told me. And I made it a habit. I took what he told me, and I started taking it really seriously. And then I'd be on vacation, somebody would call me. And he would text me and said, "I told you it's a habit." That's what he would text me. But is selling a habit for you? You want to ask yourself that. Is it a habit for you? You want to make that a habit. So when you start looking at what we did day one, and we said, what habits no longer work with the life I want to create? What are those? What are those habits? And then what is that one pinnacle habit that I keep telling you about? For all of you, they're going to be different habits. But what is it for you? What is that one habit? I want you leaving here knowing that one habit. And then I want you to divorce yourself from every habit that no longer works with the life you want to create. The second you divorce from it, you don't give it energy, that seed is going to die. Once the seed dies, it may take a few months, it may take a few weeks. That depends how committed you are to releasing that habit. But you want to know what are no longer the habits that serve me anymore. And we've got to release those. We have to release those. And so if you just did the things you resist to do, you would 10x your results. Do you realize that? Every one of us, I'm no different, has resistance all day long. They have resistance all day long. But the winners do the opposite of what they resist. The people who are losing give into the resistance, and guess what happens? They keep going backwards, keep going backwards, keep going backwards. Then backwards becomes a habit. So just imagine you get the resistance. Like I get it every morning when I'm about to do my auto suggestion. You've already done it. How many days do you have to do this in a row? Like it comes to me every day and I still just do it. I just do it. I just do it. Because you have that second before resistance beats you or you beat resistance. You literally have a second to decide. And if you take longer than a second, I promise you, you're going to let resistance beat you. So you have that moment that you have to recalibrate yourself and remind yourself, what do you want the most? What do you really want the most? But the average person is resistant to change even when it's for their own improvement. Even when it's for their own improvement. But none of you are average, so I know none of you are that. But you can make a decision today. I told you this to you yesterday. You can make a decision and say, I'm going to do something out of my comfort zone today, and it'll completely change you. One thing will completely change you. One thing out of your comfort zone. Completely change you. That's what Garrett did. I mean, I got to imagine, Garrett, like when you were in November, the emotional state you were probably like, I hope this dude knows what he's talking about. Right? Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. I can imagine. Until you get in and do the real work, this lesson is about the real work. It's the common denominator of success. So, that's what happens. But regrets, everything you had to do to become who you are, supposed to be but didn't do it. That's what regrets are. That's what regrets are. And so everything you had to do, you know you had to do something, but you didn't do it, so it turns into what? A regret, right? So learn the lesson. Don't shame yourself. Just say, I'm going to learn from this, and my next opportunity, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. The worst thing you guys can do is shame yourself. You say, God, I feel so bad I didn't do that. Feel bad for what? That's not going to make it better. I mean, it will never make it better. Now, Arlen, for you, this is a good one for us to build your identity off of, right? See, you remember how I was talking about hidden commitments? That would be one. So what do we do with the hidden commitment? We become aware what it is. Right? For Paul, yours was trust, right? So now we know what it is. Now you're going to crush it. Because now it's out of our energy. So now we can do something about it. See, I love when I find my weaknesses. I love finding weaknesses. Because I get to fix it. I get to make it a strength. And so we want to know what our own weakness is. It'll show it to us if we're open to receiving it. And then now we get to work on it. Then we turn our weakness into a strength. So successful people do things they don't like doing so they can accomplish the things they want. It's such a slight difference. It's just a slight difference. That's it. Now, two things you can do to get to the top. You can do something different, or you can believe something different. Those are the two things. Believing is always what drives your doing. So if you look at what you're doing or not doing, I promise you, your belief is driving that action. The belief is always driving that action. Always. But whatever you seek in the form of reward, you must first earn in the form of service to another. That's why I told you this yesterday. We've got to prioritize service. How can I make my service better? How can I make it better? If you have a team, how can I train my team more? How can I train them more effectively? But it's always about service to others. And we have to prioritize that. If you want to earn more, yesterday I said, how many of you want to earn more? Everybody raise their hand. This is the answer to earning more. Improving your service. And some of you are working too hard so you can't service your best. Even though you want to service the best that you can, but you can't because you're doing all things for your business. Now, here we go again, the law of compensation. The amount of money you earn will always, not sometimes, always be an exact ratio for the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there will be in replacing you. Now, I want you to think of your goal. What is the part is always our ability to do it, but what ability? For the people who are leading teams, it would be leadership. Would you agree? Okay, for the people who are getting paid by what they sell, it would be selling. So, what is the ability to do what you need to focus on? What is that your greatest ability to do it from your goal? What would that be? Jason, what would that be for you? Okay, so how many people do you connect with right now?
Well, I'm about to connect with 166 investors, raise $7 million within 2 weeks. So that's my current focus.
Okay, so when you're doing this 166 investors, you want to come in with the outcome already done, and your job is to plant what they're investing in like it's a win-win. Like this is a no-brainer. So you want to practice your presentation on how you're speaking to them. Okay, so that would be your ability to do it. So all of us has to focus on our ability to do it. So Galen will have something different than Mary, right? Kim will have to be completely different than Ryan. So we want to identify what is ours so you actually activate this law in your life instead of working against it. When we're chasing success, we're working against this law. But the law works 100% of the time. And so once you start operating with this law, money is going to become automatic. Scaling your business will become automatic. It will become automatic. It's whether you want it to be automatic. I want it to be automatic. And so when you start understanding, just focus. I got to get so good at what I'm doing. I always tell people, like what you're watching today It may not be the best version of me, but it's not because of lack of effort. Maybe you saw me yesterday and I was a little better. But it's not lack of effort. So I want you to have that same intention for what you do. Put pride into your work. Put pride into your service. That's how you get so damn good at what you do. That's the only way you're going to get good at what you do. You have to put pride and put a stamp on your name like, this is who I am. Because if I met Rain and I was a jerk to her, that would be the only time what if that was the only time she met me? I can't be a jerk to people. Well, I'm not a jerk in general, but I can't be a jerk because one time, if I serve someone with less quality, I'm stealing from them. And when you understand that, then service is going to be the highest badge of honor you operate with. And that's how you're going to dramatically change your results. But money is always a reward you reap from the service you render. The more valuable the service, the greater the reward. So if I just keep focusing on upgrading my service, upgrading my service, I promise you, you will never have to worry about money. Ever. Ever have to worry about money. So ask yourself, how can I serve better? But the service to many is what creates great wealth. But how do you serve many? You serve one person at a time. Serve one person at a time. And so when people attempt to transform their income, the biggest mistake they make is they prioritize income itself. That's the biggest mistake they make. We want to prioritize value. The key is to increase your value, which will result in increased income. So stop thinking of the income. Have an income goal, then divorce yourself from it. And now focus on value. Value, value, value. And the level of compensation always follows value, not time. It doesn't matter how hard you're working at it. It's always get rewarded by the value. People always buy when they feel that the value of what they receive is greater than the value of what they give in return. They always will pay. And focus on increasing your value and your skill sets. It always determines your income. It will always determine your income. I watch people make an error because they're focusing on too many things. And if you focus on too many things, you're not making anything great. So we've got to focus on what's the most important few that is really going to transform me. And it's always going to be value. Do you realize that people never pay for something based on money? Ever. They pay based on if they want it enough. So when people are selling to other people based on money, it is the worst way to sell. Because that's not why people buy. They buy because they want something badly enough. That's the only reason why people buy. And so you want to understand that so you keep increasing your value. But decision becomes a habit. You have to recommit to the decision every day. If I could tell you one habit that altered was follow through for me. That changed everything for me. Follow through, but I had to deliberately make it a habit to follow through. That's what changed it. Like if you came and watched me work, like I'm super focused. But if you watch me in any other area of my life, I'm super lax. I really am laid back and everything, but I am like so attention to detail in my work. Like I don't like anyone touching it. I am so, because everything I do for a reason. And like that's where I've got to become really good. Well, why? Because I committed to follow through. So decisions are so important because nothing happens until you make a decision to move. Nothing will happen. No matter what I tell you in this room, unless you decide to do it and act on it, nothing will happen, I promise you. But when you decide, you're going to change so many people's lives. You're going to change your life, but you're going to create such a ripple effect in the people that you serve. And you want to make service a part of your identity. I serve at the highest level. Make that a part of your identity. Now, the secret, I told you, of skipping levels is always to make decisions as a person who already has where you would want to be. And what decisions would they make? Like, you got to start really thinking about that. What decisions like, Marcus, if you look at you and look at your goal, okay? And you've already achieved the goal, and if we just look back, since you've already achieved the goal, what kind of different decisions would you have made? What would you think? Okay, you would be more neutral.
Be better at leadership.
Okay, so you decide to become a better leader. You would trust yourself in your position. You would expand, you would stretch David.
Be more emotionally detached.
Be more emotionally decisions. So these are the decisions I want you to start making now. Okay? These are the decisions you make. And then in your communication, you're never confrontational. You're never confrontational. Yeah, that's a big one for you. You're getting better at that. But those would be that we want to start understanding. Like, it's great that I say this, but you want to start bulletproofing yourself now. Like, what are the decisions that person makes? Like, what is that decision? And so, when you do that and make every day day one, that's when your life is going to change. You always think of yourself as a beginner. Every master thinks of themselves as a beginner. So no matter what you've gotten to, say, I'm just getting started. I'm always a beginner. I'm always a beginner. That's going to keep motivating you to be humble and hungry. Because I told you, you have to want it so bad. That's called hunger. But you want to be humble so when you keep skipping levels, you don't think you're better than everybody else. Because then the ego can turn what you're doing into your greatest disadvantage. It can be your greatest disadvantage. Because you can do it like Paul. I can say Paul can do it in one area. He doesn't know this area. Well, if he's humble, and I'm not saying that to you, Paul, so don't take that in. But I can say that to me. And I may do it in one area, I still got to learn the rules in another area. Okay? But when you surrender the need to control, you align with the flow of the universe. Why do we need to control? Because we don't trust. Why do we not trust? Because our heart is filled with fear. Why is it filled with fear? Because we're not thinking. So we can go under the hood and give you the reasons of why this is happening. So if you go under the hood and say, why am I not doing a thing? I promise you it always comes back to your thinking. Always. Now, unfortunately, it's 4 layers later, but you can adjust it and say, from this point on, I'm going to think like the person I want to be. What does that person think like? They're bold. They activate their Adam-given muscle. They're in the spirit. That's how that person thinks. They're taking actions before they're even ready. So you want to start doing that for yourself. But breakthroughs don't happen by waiting. They will never happen by waiting. Ever. But you know what happens though, is if you've been waiting for the right moment to transform your life, that moment is right now. You've got to decide right now. Right now. You've got to decide, if you want to leverage, you decide, I'm going to leverage right now. If you want to work less and earn more, you've got to decide right now that you're going to earn more and work less. So when you understand that, you're going to take off. So take action today. So this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to take some time right now, and I would like you to write out what habits you're no longer serving, that you're going to let go. Then I want you to commit to yourselves of what your pinnacle habit is. What is that one habit that's going to move the needle? And then the third thing I want you to do, after you do the first two, how much time do we have?
50 minutes.
We have 50 more minutes? Okay, so then I want you, the third thing I want you to do is I want you to write down exactly the decisions the person who has already achieved your goal would be making. I want you to really write it down. So you know when it comes up that you're going to make those decisions. So that's what I'd like you to do for the next 20 minutes. Okay? First question, you're going to write what habits no longer serve you. Now that could be excuses, that could be waiting as a habit. And then the second question is, what is the one pinnacle habit that you're going to commit to? Then I want you to write a list of what are the decisions a person who's achieved my goal would be making, because I want you to know what those are so you start making them now, okay? I'm gonna give you guys about 20 minutes. If you need more, I'll give you a few more.